It all happened in a moment of thick, suffocating silence. Brianda stood quietly, her face pale, her lips pressed together as if they had forgotten how to part. Her eyes heavy with something far deeper than fear. She didn't move, she didn't blink, she didn't even attempt to defend herself. Her hands hung loosely by her sides, the weight of her own existence suddenly feeling too heavy for her to bear. Then her mother's voice came again, sharper this time, cutting through the heavy silence like a whip.
Who is responsible? Who got you pregnant?
It was no longer soft tone from earlier. It was a demand, laced with disbelief, then something that sounded dangerously close to anger and heartbreak. But Brianda remained still, her eyes fixed on the floor and the words of her mother echoing in her mind like a hammer striking the same spot over and over again. She didn't answer. But her silence wasn't born out of stubbornness or bravery, it was the silence of someone crushed under a weight too great for words. It was the silence of a soul fractured into pieces, too fragile to be touched, too wounded to bleed again. Her father's jaw clenched, his face twisted in anger.
You don't want to talk, right? You're going to have this baby. Maybe, just maybe, you'll learn your lesson after having it.
Without waiting for a response, he turned sharply and stormed out of the living room, his footsteps echoing down the hallway until they faded. Her mother sank into the sofa, pushing both hands against her forehead as if she was trying to keep her thoughts from exploding. Her voice came out low, trembling, almost a whisper meant for herself.
My village people. They have finally gotten to my family.
The disappointment in her tone was like a blade, sharp and cold. She looked at her daughter. Not just with anger, but with the deep ache of a mother who felt she had failed. Her only child was pregnant, and the worst part, she wouldn't even say who was responsible. Not after their calm questioning. Not after their threats. And not even after their anger. At the edge of the dining area, by the doorway, Kaycee stood frozen. His mind was blank, his chest tight, his heart pounding hard enough for him to hear it. His face was caught somewhere between confusion and helplessness. He felt an ache for Brianda that he couldn't put into words. He wished, desperately wished, he could shield her, fix this mess. But he couldn't. Kaycee was not just any boy in the house. He was a 20-year-old nephew of Mr. Allen, Brianda's father, and he had lived with them for nearly his entire life. His parents had died in a car accident when he was only 8. Since then, his uncle had taken him in, and his wife had welcomed him like her own child. He started living with them when Brianda was just 2 years old, and from the very beginning, a bond had formed between them. They did everything together, played, went to the same school. Kaycee even became her quiet protector, stepping in to defend Brianda against any bully, whether the bully was bigger, older or meaner, it didn't matter as long as it concerned Brianda. Even after he got into university, whenever he came home, it was partly to see Brianda, to talk to her, to laugh with her. It has been a part of the comfort they always shared. But that was before everything changed. Brianda had once been the joy of the house. A happy and cheerful child. A girl whose laughter was as natural as breathing. But that light dimmed when she turned 14. A vibrant spirit dulled. She became very quiet. Withdrawn. Moving through the house like a ghost of herself. Her mother had noticed the change and asked her if something was wrong. Brianda simply said she was fine, and her mother, believing it to be a passing teenage mood swings, brushed it aside. But Brianda was not fine. She kept it to herself. Going straight to her room after school. Barely eating, barely smiling. She sat alone, the weight of an unspoken truth passing her into silence. She felt used, hurt, and lost. The memory of what happened that night replayed endlessly in her mind, the shock, the confusion, the disbelief. She couldn't understand why what happened to her had happened. She felt betrayed, and the only way she could heal was to stay away from everyone, even Kaycee. Kaycee noticed her sudden change. One evening, he tried to talk to her. asking her if she was still mad at him because of what happened earlier and telling her he was sorry that it won't happen again. But Brianda turned her face away, telling him she was fine and nothing was wrong with her. But Kaycee didn't believe her words. And when he tried to gently press further, Brianda cut him off sharply, telling him she was fine and needed some privacy, then eventually stormed out of the living room. Kaycee just sat stunned. He had never seen Brianda so infuriated before. Her mother still never bothered anyways. She didn't think much of her daughter's mood, not until a few weeks later when she walked in on Brianda, hunched over her bathroom sink, vomiting. Her mother's heart skipped. Something wasn't right. Without further questions, she grabbed her daughter's arm and drove her straight to the hospital. And there, the doctor, after running some tests on Brianda, broke the news to her. Her daughter was 1 month pregnant. Mrs. Allen's eyes widened. Her lips shook. She pressed her hands to her chest and stared at Brianda in shock. When Mr. Allen found out, his reaction was explosive. His eyes filled with anger and disappointment. And when he demanded to know who was responsible, Brianda never spoke. She just stood still, her eyes fixed somewhere far away, a place where no one could reach her. She didn't flinch. She didn't speak. Back in Mr. and Mrs. Allen's bedroom that night, Mrs. Allen tried to talk to her husband.
Darling, what are we going to do now? She's just a child. This will destroy her life.
But his reply was cold.
She will have the baby.
Her eyes grew wide. She had thought her husband was just joking or angry when he said it earlier. But he didn't look like he was.
We have to think about her. She's just a child. Do you know the trauma this will cause? The shame. We can find a safe way to...
She's going to have the baby.
Mr. Allen cut in bluntly, his tone final. His face was set, not in anger, but in cold, immovable decision. Brianda's mother just stared at him, her heart sinking. She could not believe that the man she married could make such a decision for their daughter without a flicker of compassion. She argued, begged, reminding him of the danger of teenage pregnancy, but it was like talking to a stone. His mind was made up. From that night, a silent war settled in their home. Mrs. Allen wanted to protect her daughter, to spare her from shame, but she didn't want to fight her husband. She even thought about doing it her own way, arranging for the pregnancy to be quietly terminated, but she knew it would tear their marriage apart. So for peace, she gave up her plan. But it broke her. Every day, she watched Brianda grow thinner, her shoulders heavy under an invisible burden. She pitied her daughter, pitied the silence that clung to her like a second skin. She also blamed her for allowing herself get involved with a boy at her age. Kaycee tried over and over to talk to Brianda. But she acted as if he wasn't even there, her eyes avoiding his. Her response flat or absent. Her father would look at her sometimes, his expression unreadable, maybe disappointment. Her mother's gaze was softer now, filled with pity and helplessness. Brianda was 5 months along, and still, no one knew who the father was. Her mother had sat her down, speaking to her in the gentlest voice possible.
Tell me. I promise, I will protect you.
But the answer never came. She would sit alone often, thinking of every man around Brianda. None made sense. She had no close male friends. Only Kaycee. But no. That was impossible. Kaycee had been nothing but protective. She needed to know the truth but got none, until one night, when the truth finally unraveled before her eyes. Brianda's mother woke up very thirsty that night and went to the kitchen to drink a glass of water. But as she returned to her room, she heard soft voices coming from Brianda's room. She wondered who was in Brianda's room at that ungodly hour. The door was closed. She walked quietly and closely, placing her ear against the door. It was her husband. His voice was low, almost tender but audible enough. She thought it was just a father and daughter little chat, or maybe he was comforting her and didn't want to interrupt their little moment. She turned to go to her room, then she had it.
You are carrying my son. Something your mother couldn't give me in years. Don't worry. As soon as the baby is born, I'll fly you out of the country where you live as you want.
Mrs. Allen froze.
My son? What does it mean?
Her mind tried looking for another explanation, but before she could piece anything together, his voice came again.
Come, let's do it again. Your mother will soon wake up and will come check up on me in my room. I need to leave here before she does.
Her stomach twisted. The words were wrong, so wrong. Curiosity and dread pushed her hand to the doorknob, and before she could stop herself, she slammed the door open. The sight in front of her made her chest collapse. What she saw inside was what she never imagined would happen. Her husband touching their daughter where no man should ever touch at that age, let alone her father. He froze instantly, panic flashing in his eyes. Brianda didn't flinch. She sat there calmly, almost like she had been expecting this moment, like she was relieved the truth was finally in plain sight. Her mother's voice trembled.
What's going on here?
I can explain, her father said quickly. Brianda quickly stood up and quietly walked out of the room, without a single word to her mother. She left the room like she had been waiting for years for someone to carry the weight she has been carrying. Her mother turned back to her father, her voice sharp, trembling with disgust.
Explain what? Explain the conversation I just heard you discussing with our daughter. Explain the way you were touching her.
Mr. Allen's eyes grew dark.
It's not my fault. I did it for us. I did it because I love you. I wanted a son. You couldn't give me one. I didn't want to cheat with a stranger, and I didn't want to hurt your feelings, so I chose our daughter instead.
Mrs. Allen screamed inside her heart. She wanted to tear her ears off so she would not have to hear such evil words. Her legs grew weak, her body shook, her mind almost broke. She stared at him. The man she had loved. The man she trusted and built a family with, and suddenly, she couldn't recognize him anymore. Her world had just shattered. Her voice broke into pieces as she spoke.
Love me? Did it for us? How could you? You should have cheated. I wouldn't have cared if you had cheated on me 100 times. But why our daughter? The little girl we both cradled in our arms. The girl who loved and trusted you. A 14-year-old child, for goodness sake.
Her voice cracked, her eyes filling with tears.
You are a monster, Allen.
She didn't wait for his reply. She turned and stormed out of the room before the rage inside her consumed her completely. In her own bedroom, she collapsed on the bed, sobbing uncontrollably. She had thought her daughter had been foolish enough to get involved with a boy at her age. She had blamed her for being careless. But all this time, it had been the man he married. The man who was supposed to protect their daughter had been the one destroying her from the inside. He had ruined her innocence and had blamed her too, pretending to be a disappointed father while hiding his own evil. Mrs. Allen cried so hard until her chest hurt. She felt like a failure, not just as a wife, but as a mother. She had failed to see the signs, failed to protect her daughter. Failed to notice the silent pain she had been living in for years. But this was not the time to drown in tears. Brianda needed her. Even though the pain in her chest was unbearable, she knew it could not compare to what her daughter had endured. She stood up, wiped her tears and went to find her. Brianda was sitting down in the living room, staring blankly at nothing. Her face showed no emotions. It was as if she had run out of feelings. Her mother walked silently to her and sat beside her. For a while, neither of them spoke. Then she spoke, almost like a whisper.
Brianda, I'm sorry. I have failed you. I should have protected you.
The silence between them was heavy, thick with unspoken words, shame, and pain. After a long pause, Mrs. Allen took a deep breath. She knew the question she was about to ask would hurt, but she needed to know.
How long has this been going on?
Brianda finally spoke. There was no reason to keep quiet anymore. Her voice was low, almost like a whisper.
8 years.
Her mother jaw dropped. 8 years. That meant it started when Brianda was only 6 years old. Brianda's voice came again, steady but empty.
It started when I was 6 years old. He touched me in my private areas. I didn't understand what was happening then because he always told me it was a normal thing and I should never tell anyone. When I turned 14, he did it for the first time. I missed my period afterwards and I told him. He secretly took me to run a pregnancy test which confirmed that I was pregnant. He told me not to tell you, to let you find out yourself. He also said he would kill me if I ever told you or anyone that he was responsible. And right from that moment, he started coming to my room every night, saying it was good for the baby if we did it.
For the first time, Brianda's calm face cracked. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her mother couldn't hold back either. She wrapped her arms around her daughter, and they cried together, loud, heartbreaking sobs. Her mother's guilt felt like a heavy stone crushing her chest. She couldn't believe her daughter had been living in this kind of hell right under her nose. She blamed herself for every moment she hadn't noticed. Behind the door, Kaycee stood still, listening. His chest tightened. Now he understood why Brianda had changed. He had thought she was upset with him because he took her t-shirt to school without asking for her permission. But this was beyond anything he could ever imagined. The man who raised him, the man he called dad, had been abusing his own daughter. He was the monster behind his cousin's pain. Kaycee's mind raced with anger. He shivered at the thought, if I had been a girl, what would have happened to me? Something worse. Mrs. Allen wiped her tears. She looked Brianda in the eyes and said,
My daughter, I promise you, you will get justice.
The next day, she went to report to the police. Mr. Allen was arrested and taken in for questioning. He denied everything. Brianda gave her statement explaining everything that happened, but still, he denied it all. A DNA test was ordered. When the results came back, they confirmed the horrible truth. Mr. Allen was truly the father of the unborn child. The news spread like wildfire. People caused him, friends, distant and close relatives, neighbors. Everyone was shocked and disgusted. Brianda's statement and the DNA result led to his conviction. He was sentenced to prison for child abuse. Through it all, Mrs. Allen stayed by her daughter's side, watching as the man she once loved, the father of her daughter, was being taken away for something she never thought he could do. Throughout Brianda's pregnancy, her mother stood by her, making sure she got a proper medical care, even though the whole situation was traumatizing. Months later, Brianda went into labor. Her mother was right there with her, holding her hand and whispering words of courage. But when the moment came, the baby didn't make it. The doctors tried, but it was too late. Brianda's heart shattered. She laid in the hospital bed, silent tears streaming down her face. She had carried the baby through so much pain, hoping that at least the child would be her reason to smile again. But now there was only emptiness. Her mother sat beside her, wrapping her arms around her.
My daughter, I know this hurts,
she said softly, her own voice breaking.
But maybe, just maybe, it's for the best. No child should have to come into this world carrying such a heavy story. The most important thing is that you are alive and healthy. You are still here, and that means you still have a chance at life. You still have a future.
It wasn't easy for Brianda to accept those words. She cried for days, her mind replaying every moment. But slowly, with her mother's love and care, she began to heal. She found new hobbies just to forget the past. Slowly, she began to smile again. She started talking to people, trying to come out of the dark shell her father had forced her into, determined not to let her father's actions destroy her completely. It wasn't easy, there were days when the memories came like sharp knives, but she had her mother and Kaycee by her side. And for the first time in years, she began to believe that life could still be good. And every time she looked at her mother, she saw the woman who fought for her until the very end. Protect children at all costs. A parent's first duty is to keep their child safe, even from people in the family. Parents must pay attention to their children's behavior and emotions. Changes often mean something deeper is wrong. It may be a cry for help. Evil can hide behind a familiar face. Even trusted family members can be capable of terrible things, so always stay alert. Silence only gives abusers more power. Speaking out, no matter how hard, can stop the abuse and save others. No excuse for abuse. Wanting a son, money, or power is never a reason to harm a child. Healing is possible, even after deep pain. With love, support, and time, a person can recover and smile again. Justice may not erase the pain, but it can stop the abuser from hurting others. Before we go, children, I want you to know that your body is yours. No one has the right to touch you in a way that makes you uncomfortable, not even family. Speak up quickly. If someone does something wrong to you, tell a trusted adult, teacher, or the police immediately. Keep telling until someone listens. If the first person you tell doesn't help, tell another and another until someone takes action. It's never your fault. If someone hurts you, you did nothing wrong. The blame is on the person who did it. Don't keep bad secrets. If someone tells you to hide something that makes you uncomfortable, tell a trusted adult right away. Stay aware of warning signs. Special secrets about touching is a danger sign. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story. Kindly leave your thoughts in the comment section and also do well to share with your family, friends, in fact all your loved ones. Something good is always coming, so please stay tuned for more interesting and amazing stories from this channel.
Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to Hopella Stories.